Let's try that one more time. Hello everybody, in this episode I will be talking about one of the important facets of the Ancient Warfare 3 community, which is the workshop. Anybody can upload their creations to the workshop and they can be downloaded, edited, re-uploaded. That's a process that comes with Steam, but it has become definitely the most important feature of the community right now. You can upload your map, people will play it, and it'll get popular on the front pages of the workshop. Specifically, I'll be talking about past efforts to clean up the workshop, keep it healthy, because a big issue, which has been brought up by map makers in the past, is that there's sometimes a bit of an issue where the most publicized maps and creations of the Ancient Warfare 3 community are the ones that have the least effort put into them, so it's not a great face for the game to have when shown on, for instance, YouTube by people like Project Jamesify, Daily Productions. Those are the people who I know make videos about this game. So I'll just be talking about some stories about the past efforts to keep the workshop sort of in a healthy state. And by that I mean these are attempts for people to give recognition and feedback to the higher effort maps and give, like, feedback, constructive criticism to the maps that are lower effort to try and keep everything in a balance. The reason I'll be talking about this is because there's some pretty interesting stories that come out of that. It's the perpetual struggle, so it's brought some interesting experiences. Obviously, one of the most important community functions of Ancient Warfare 3 is the weekly map competition. I touched on that briefly in my last episode, but basically the weekly map competition, it used to be a themed contest where each week you had to submit a map according to certain parameters, so pirate attack, D-Day landings, that kind of thing, and you'd have to put your own take on the theme. That's how it went for at least a year, but it recently came back as the WMC 3.0, and about late into the 20s, so I don't remember exactly which WMC this started, but it turned into a more general purpose competition where you just had to upload your favorite map that you'd recently made, and you could put it into the WMC, and no theme limit, no creative limit. So what that actually did was it opened it up to more people. More people were interested. It had been a pretty constant problem with the WMC for there being lots of low quality or low effort submissions that either didn't fit the theme or they were just too basic to really be considered winning maps. You know what I mean? But that's pretty much changed in the recent WMCs because more and more people are encouraged to submit when there's fewer creative restrictions. The current host of the WMC, Desert Mammoth, has he said that there's 15 or 20 high-quality, high-effort maps with each WMC now, where in the past it could have been only 2 to 3 in a given week, so definitely an improvement, I'd say, over the formula. So the reason I talk about this is because the WMC has consistently brought the winning maps and the high-ranking maps on its leaderboards, to fame on the workshop, and so obviously, if the WMC judge thinks it's high quality, he will share that out in a message saying it got first place, second place, etc. Lots of people will see that, and they'll visit the map, and it will become popular. So the WMC has actually been pretty good at regulating the workshop, keeping it healthy and stuff. The WMC also has the added bonus of when you win 1 week, you can pick an item or a piece of equipment that goes into a poll at the end of each month, and there's 4 items in that poll, and then the community at large votes on it on the main menu screen, so potentially hundreds of people are voting on this object, and like I talked about in the last video, there is the possibility for that to be abused, that kind of functionality, but that's not been a problem as of late, so the WMC has actually been pretty effective and a pretty fun thing. So if you're new to Ancient Warfare 3 and you'd like some feedback on your map, you can upload it to the WMC, and the host, Desert Mammoth, will make a video about it, and if it passes what he calls the thumbnail cull, he will play the map and describe his thoughts in recorded form on his YouTube channel. And obviously, if you do well enough, you'll get in the top 3, and you'll be honored in the Steam forums, so I would recommend entering the WMC if you're at all interested in that kind of a competition aspect, or if you just want to try and get something that you think would be cool into the game. Obviously, don't do what Dragon Hero did and ban people together and abuse the functionality of the WMC, but it's definitely a fun thing that the developer does. And that the community does it. The developer just he goes along and supports it. So this game does have a very good community, I would like to say. So, having talked about that, the WMC being, I would say, the most famous and long-running of these types of things on the workshop, I'll move on to a more independent attempt, because this was a time when this happened during a time when the WMC was actually pretty small. It was fading. I think it was on its way to being retired or dissolved. This was before the WMC 3.0 came around, so obviously there were only a handful, maybe even one or two good maps for each week. So there were lots of, maps where there was just, spammed units on an empty map, which obviously that's not going to get people to download the game more. The whole idea is that we want more people to buy the game, if you're going to do this kind of thing on the workshop, because if they see high-quality user submissions, high-quality creations, maps, etc., they're going to want to download the game, play it, create, their own kind of stuff. But that wasn't really happening when this was going on. There were only a couple of good things on the top pages of the workshop, the most visible pages of the Steam Workshop, which is where most people go to get their fan-made content or user-made content. So now I'll talk about the next major community function that was organized to try and improve the health of the workshop, get the good maps recognized and the lower quality maps feedback so they could be improved on. This was organized completely independent of the developer. It was a pre-existing group, very small, a meme group, and it was actually, this is kind of a weird thing to talk about, but it was actually this meme group that like, worshipped me. I mean, the Liamism church. It was a very small group that just talked about me and another user, Meko, in some kind of a pantheon thing. Both of us are moderators for the Ancient Warfare 3 Discord server, but that's what was happening. Was going on at the time, because a bunch of people had changed their Discord usernames to match mine with slight variations. So that was an April Fool's Day meme, and that's how that all started. So there was this small group of people, mostly just people who I knew, and acquaintances and friends from the Ancient Warfare 3 community. Wasn't really doing much though, so we had this idea where we would go on a crusade on the workshop, and that meant to make a bunch of maps about this, pantheon of the JNI Games map moderators. To try and put some more quality maps out onto the workshop. It was less focused on giving feedback. That was an idea that was, I think, incorporated later or, encouraged later. But it was just more to put a bunch of maps about this joke religion thing out onto the workshop. Because there were just so few quality maps being actually put out into the public eye. And as a result, there was a drought of public attention to the game. Very few YouTube videos being made, things like that. So something obviously had to change. That was also, I think, around the same time there was some more drama with Dragon Hero, which I discussed in my first episode. So yeah, the game community was in kind of a bad spot at the time, so that's what we were trying to do, is bring a little bit of public attention, quality to the workshop, I guess. That was a fun, uniting activity. It ended up doing alright. I mean, Desert Mammoth made a couple of videos about it. Yeah, the maps were like meme maps. Not all of them were that great. I mean, there was a certainly good effort put out by the group there. A wide variety of maps as well. There was one where there was a stealth mission at night boarding another ship, and lots of these big medieval battles on a grand scale. We all talked to each other and gave each other feedback on uploading the maps. I think there were like 6 or 7. And a lot of them got onto the front pages of the workshop, just because, we were all looking at each other's maps and stuff, downloading them, or subscribing to them, I should say. So that happened, the Workshop Crusade. A moderate success, I would say. Also, one of the unfortunate side effects of that, meme group, is that some people started taking it too seriously, so the 2 founders of that organization ended up having a big argument, which, hurt it overall, but it still exists. There was a failed second crusade that happened very recently, actually, just a few weeks ago, actually. I think only 1 or maybe 2 maps got uploaded, so there was very little attention put to that, I think because of the, transition to the school year. So that was unfortunate, because that was also, I think, a time when there was a decline in quality, so we just tried to fill that need, but unfortunately didn't really materialize. A third crusade is being discussed amongst those guys. Don't really know. Just to provide some more maps from that pantheon. There's actually a weirdly complex lore behind it now. Even I don't know the full lore behind that, so it's pretty cool that way. I might update this with another episode about this if there ends up being a third crusade, but That has been an idea that's been tossed around. So anyway, those were the Liamist Workshop Crusades. A bit different from the WMC, obviously, in their goal and their methods and what they were trying to do, but it was fun, and it ended up putting a bit more quality into the public eye. I don't exactly know how much it affected the amount of YouTube videos and, publicity to the game. I'm not going to try and pretend that had some kind of a major effect on the game or the development or anything like that, but it was just a fun, uniting activity which I thought I would talk about on this subject. So yes, throughout the course of the community of this game, there's been a pretty consistent problem where there's going to be these lull periods where there's lots of lower quality maps or lower effort maps dominating the public area that's visible to new players, and they'll think, well, this game's not that good. I mean, look at the kind of creations you can make in it. And that's alarming, to the long-time community of the game, because it's going to not make people not want to download the game, not make YouTube videos about it. And that's just going to hurt the game overall, because, we're trying to grow this game's community and affect it in a positive way. So eventually an idea that was decided upon or developed by myself and Desert Mammoth was to create a map-making guild, which was basically a group of people in the community. So it had a focus of activity where you couldn't just be in the map-making guild and that would be it. You had to actually contribute positively, doing things like post feedback to the other members' maps, review just any kind of map that you could find that was lower effort. We actually used a pre-written template for our reviews to talk about things we liked and didn't like, possible improvements, etc. So the idea was that if we posted that in the comments section of the map, it would the person who made the map would then want to go and improve it so that it could become more popular and more successful among the community of the game. So the map-making guild was the most direct method of trying to educate and improve the sort of skills of the masters of the game. Because it's perfectly fine if you want to play Ancient Warfare 3 and make whatever kind of map you want. You don't have to necessarily follow any of the conventions that are established by the community. Like, you don't have to say, put on fog or put grass. You can really do whatever you want. I mean, the game, it doesn't have a set of rules, so... But the point of the map-making guild, though, was to review each other's maps, sharpen our skills, and also to educate people who we saw consistently putting out these maps that were just like lower effort and going out on the front page, because we thought, well, maybe they do want to learn. And so we just thought that it would be kind of a public service. It had a feed where you could upload your map directly to Discord, and people would see it right away. Everybody would get pinged. So then they could click right into the map, and that's where they'd register their feedback. So the only problem with the map-making guild was that while it did have that focus of activity, it didn't actually last a very long time. It lasted about a month, I think, of solid activity before it started to fade into idleness. Maps started getting reviewed less and less. There was a kind of a drama between one of the top members of the map-making guild and some of the other people in the community, which led him to leave. And obviously, the other staff of the guild, just myself and Desert Mammoth, were pretty busy at the time too, so... just ended up not having a lot of time being able to dedicate to that product, so the map-making guild pretty much stalled. Lately, we've added a new guild staff member, and he's tried to start it to get going again, but we don't really know what the future of that's going to be like. But I think for the time that it had, it was good at educating people. Some new tutorials were written and made and recorded. So it was definitely a noble goal, but it didn't last a super long time before, natural real life, it didn't last a super long time before natural real life concerns started to affect it in a major way. So in this sort of never-ending battle against these lower effort maps and kind of flooding the front pages, people like Desert Mammoth and Lulz have started reviewing these maps in video form on YouTube. Desert Mammoth obviously has a bit more name recognition. I think he has something like 3 or 4 times as many subscribers to his maps as anybody else in the game community, so definitely more name recognition, and he's gotten a few more subscribers, but there's several people who have started to review maps on the internet now. So you can just look up the name of your map on YouTube, and there's a good chance, well, not a good chance, but there's a chance at least that somebody will have played it and offered their feedback. It's something that I tried to do, but I was not wanting to copy what was already happening, and I get that, it would be a helpful educational thing probably for some people, but it's something Desert Mammoth is doing, and it's kind of his thing, and I didn't really want to intrude on that, especially because, podcasts and this kind of thing is also, I think, something that I'm I'm good at a little bit, so I think this is what I'll stick with for right now, unless there's some overwhelming desire again for more playthroughs of maps in video form. But that's basically what the modern form of this kind of workshop management has kind of taken. People are on YouTube talking, trying to educate some of the newer players. It's definitely not an elitist thing. It's an altruistic thing. I mean, you can tell if you watch the videos. He's genuinely offering constructive criticism, and he's not trying to tear down these people when he makes these videos and commentaries about these Ancient Warfare 3 maps. I mean, he knows that he's seeing these problems a lot, and he's just trying to educate people, and he does it in a patient way. So, and I think that's the best. That's community at its best, because sometimes there are elitists and calling people, peasants over what they want added into the game, which personally is something that I am opposed to quite vigorously. I don't want people calling other users peasants or anything. If you see somebody making a map that's looks like it's lower effort or something, and it's uploaded out into the Steam Workshop, just send them a comment as nicely as you can, and tell them what you think that they could improve. I would say it's a pretty simple matter in that way. So that brings me to the final section of this podcast episode, which is how you can help. It's going to be a pretty constant problem, I'd say, in the Ancient Warfare 3 community, where lower quality maps, or maps that just don't showcase the full capability of the game, they're going to be the public face of the game. That's going to be happening quite a lot. And so if you want to help that, to try and potentially get more people to play the game and make videos about it to help the game, you can review maps. That can be in a number of different forums. You can comment on the Steam Workshop item. You can write a review out on Discord. You could record what you think about it on YouTube, like some people do. All that kind of contribution is very much appreciated. I've gotten some comments back, and other people who have done this kind of thing, they've gotten comments back to people who say, thank you for playing my map, and that kind of thing. They're expressing their gratitude at that, because they don't just upload it just for the fun of it. They want to have people play them and notice them, and a lot of times people will skip over them if that's the case, so hopefully it'll teach them and educate them a little bit more for their public creation of maps. I hope you enjoyed these stories from the Ancient Warfare 3 community. I'll probably follow it up if something changes, if there's maybe a third Workshop Crusade or the map-making guild comes back, all kinds of things could potentially happen. It's a very fun way for the community to do some kind of a altruistic, random act of kindness online. And like I said, it's pretty easy to help, so you can go and do that yourself. But like I said, you can make any kind of map you want. You don't have to be an elitist about it. I certainly don't do it that way, and I hope others don't do it either. Just for the purpose of making it themselves seem, like this professional, elite mapper. The whole point of it is to educate people and help the game. So, well, those are just a collection of stories and experience which I thought I would share about, the whole community drive to keep some education and quality across the workshop. It's certainly not a sign of elitism. It's definitely an altruistic thing. If there's something you'd like me to talk about in another episode, be sure to write it out in the comments. I'll be looking at those. I already do have topics planned for the next couple of episodes, though, so I should be recording every day or every other day for the foreseeable future. I also have a couple of guests already lined up who should be coming onto the show and talking about their plans and creations, maps, future ideas for Ancient Warfare 3, their various experiences as well. I'm sure especially some of them are going to have some good stories to tell, too, so be sure to look for that, and if you'd like, you can also subscribe. So that's it, and I'll see you in the next episode.